Okay.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وعملا يا رب العالمين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has gathered us here today to listen to the words of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah azza wa jal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this gathering of ours a means of success for us in this life and in the life hereafter inshaAllah ta'ala. So it's been quite a long time since we continued with our series of Surah Yusuf, hence the decrease in the crowd. It's been quite a few weeks, as in I was ill for a couple of weeks, and then we had our youth program last week, and even next week we've got another talk. So there's been a bit of interruption, but khair inshallah. We're nearing the end of Surah Yusuf, and just to remind everyone of what's happened so far in the story, where we are. We're at this point in the story where Yusuf alayhi salam has been reunited with his brother Binyamin. Yes, Allah Azza wa Jal in verse 69 of Surah Yusuf, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ قَالَ إِنِّي أَنَا أَخُوكَ فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned that when they entered upon Yusuf alayhi salam, meaning the brothers, then Yusuf alayhi salam, he embraced Yusuf alayhi Binyamin, his brother. And the Mufassir mentioned that what happened was when they all got together, the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they were obviously going to stay there for some time. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he gave them all rooms to stay in, right? And there was 11 of them. And in each room, there were 2 brothers. Yeah, so how many brothers in total?
12.
Including Yusuf alayhi salam? 12, right? So now what happened was, excluding Yusuf alayhi salam, we had 11. طيب? So you have 2 in every room. Until when 5 rooms were taken up, so now that's 10 brothers, we had Binyamin who was remaining, and he was on his own. And Yusuf alayhi salam did this on purpose, because he wanted to be alone with Binyamin, so that he can tell Binyamin that I am Yusuf. Because if he says it in front of everyone, then all of the brothers will find out, and then his plan will go to waste. Understand? So what happened was, Binyamin was alone. So Yusuf alayhi salam said, no problem, Binyamin can stay with me in my room. Right? So Binyamin, he stayed with Yusuf alayhi salam. When they went inside of their room and they were in private, this is when Yusuf alayhi salam told Binyamin that I am your brother. Right? And obviously Binyamin was amazed, he was so happy, and he hasn't seen his brother for a very long time. And now what happened was, Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentions that when Binyamin saw Yusuf alayhi salam, he told Yusuf that, oh Yusuf, don't send me back to the brothers. Yeah, the rest of my brothers, don't send me back with them. I want to stay with you. Now who can tell me, remind us, why did Binyamin have a special relationship with Yusuf and not the other brothers?
Because they had the same mother.
Yes, they had the same mother. And the other brothers, they didn't have the same mother, they had the same father. Yeah, but they were from a different mother, which is why there was a special connection between Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin. Right? So now what happens is, he is making this request. Now bear in mind, why have the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam come to Egypt in the first place? They came the first time to get some food rations from Yusuf alayhi salam. Why? Because Yusuf alayhi salam was the treasurer of Egypt. Okay, he had a royal position. He had a governmental post, you can say. So he was appointed by the king to look after the finances of the country. So it was his responsibility to give everyone grains of food during the period of drought that they were going through. And then what happened was, when they were given their grain the first time, the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, when they were given their food rations the first time, they went back But then Yusuf alayhi salam said that you claim to have another brother, because the first time they came, if you remember, they didn't bring Binyamin. They left Binyamin with Yaqub alayhi salam. And then when they came to Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, we've got another brother, by the way, so give us his portion as well. So Yusuf alayhi salam said, okay, no problem, I'll give you the portion of Binyamin, but on the condition that when you come next time, you bring Binyamin, you have to bring him. Right? So now, this is the second time we're talking about. So they now come a second time. This time now, they've brought to Binyamin, because this was the condition, the agreement that they made. So this is the part of the story that we have reached. So now we're on verse number 70 of Surah Yusuf. Allah Azza wa Jal, verse 70, He says, فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةِ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that when Yusuf alayhi salam had furnished them with their supplies, meaning when he gave them the supplies of food, when he had prepared all of the food rations so that they can take the food rations, all of the luggage was packed and all of the food rations was put in their luggage, right? Everything was ready basically, and they were about to leave. And the Mufassiri mentioned that he did it in such a way that every brother had his own camel, a load of food, right? And some Mufassiri mentioned that he even put a name on every single camel so that everyone knows what their food grain is. Okay, so like this, Binyamin also had his food grain. So then what happened was, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam, he put the measuring cup of the king in the bag of Binyamin, yeah, in the luggage of Binyamin, right? So he put the gold, or according to some of us, the silver measuring bowl or cup into the bag of his brother. ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. Then an announcer made an announcement, he called out, أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ. That, O caravan, indeed you have stolen, indeed you are thieves. Okay, so what's happening here now? Basically what's happened is, they've prepared everything, they're about to leave Egypt now. They've got all of their food supplies, they're about to leave. Before they left, Yusuf alayhi salam, he commanded one of his men that take this measuring cup that belonged to the king, very valuable, right? Take this measuring cup and place it in the bag of Binyamin, right? And then come back. So this young man, he went and he put this cup into the bag of Binyamin, and then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. Allah says then, meaning after some time had passed, an announcer called out, and he made an announcement. The announcement was, O caravan, referring to the group of the brothers, indeed you are thieves, yeah, you have committed theft. So in other words, the blame is upon who? The blame is upon the brothers, right? The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. So now they've been accused of stealing something. Okay, and what is that something?
The golden cup.
Only he's listening, everyone else is sleeping. The cup that belongs to who? Zayd. Yeah, Ikhwan, wake up, wake up. I know it's the end of the year, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Wake up, inshallah. Yeah, the measuring cup that belonged to the king. طيب. So now what's happened? They have been accused. Now when they were approached by the men of Yusuf alayhi salam, and this caller made this announcement, obviously now theft has been attributed to them by Yusuf alayhi salam. Now one may say, and we're going to talk about this in detail later on, but one may say, how can theft be attributed to the brothers of Yusuf when we know that they are not thieves? Did they steal the cup? Have they stolen the cup? They haven't. They've been accused of something that they didn't do, right? Imam Qurtubi mentioned something very interesting. He says that the reason why theft was attributed to them is because previously, back, like 20, 30 years ago, they stole Yusuf alayhi salam from his father. And they threw him into the well. And then they sold him off. Right? Which is why theft has been attributed. So he said that they are worthy of this title from that perspective. Okay? Now one may ask, isn't it impermissible for someone to accuse another person of a crime that he didn't commit when you know that he hasn't committed it? So you know that he hasn't committed that crime, yet you are accusing that person of that crime. Isn't this haram, brothers? Yeah, it's haram, right? It's not permissible to accuse someone. If I know that someone is innocent, I know it deep down, but I'm still accusing him, that's obviously impermissible. So now the question comes, does that mean that Yusuf alayhi salam did something impermissible? Right, we're going to come to that inshallah later on. So now they've been accused. Allah Azza wa Jal thereafter in verse 71 he mentions that قَالُوا وَأَقْبَلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ مَاذَا تَفْقِدُونَ, that they said while approaching them, what is it that you are missing? What have you lost? What are you missing? You are accusing us of committing theft. We haven't committed theft. What are you missing that you are accusing us of committing theft? So then Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, قَالُوا نَفْقِدُ صُوَاعَ الْمَلِكِ وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that they said, meaning the men of Yusuf alayhi salam said, نَفْقِدُ صُوَاعَ الْمَلِكِ, we are missing the measuring cup of the king. Yeah, the measuring cup of the king. And then they said, وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. Whosoever brings the measuring cup, meaning whosoever finds the measuring cup of the king, his reward is that he is going to get an entire camel load of grain. Okay, this is his reward. Okay, and then he said, وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ, I am going to be responsible and I'm going to make sure that he gets that reward. Okay, so now what's happened here? They are obviously shocked by this accusation because they know they haven't stolen anything, which is why the Mufassir mentioned, notice how they said, ماذا تفقدون? Not, they didn't say that, what did we steal? They said, what did you lose? Right? So the Mufassir mentioned, look at how they spoke to the men of Yusuf alayhi salam. They didn't say, what have we stolen? If they said, what have we stolen, then that makes them look guilty, right? But they said, what are you missing? To show the men of Yusuf alayhi salam that they haven't stolen anything. Rather, maybe it's been misplaced, maybe it is a misunderstanding of some sort, right? Now, coming on to this question, that so they responded saying that نَفْقِدُ صُوَاعَ الْمَلِكِ, that we have lost, or the measuring cup of the king is missing. Now, the first important thing that we must mention regarding the verse 72, is that when Allah Azza wa Jalla describes the measuring cup of the king, Allah uses two words. Right? The first word that He used was siqaya, and the second word that He used was suwa' al-malik. Now the word siqaya, it comes from the word saqa, yasqi, right? Siqaya, which means to give someone drink. Right? So the word siqaya, bearing that in mind, it gives the meaning of, you can say, a drinking cup or a drinking bowl, right? Something that you drink from. Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentions that the word siqaya and the word suwa', they mean the same thing. And the definition of suwa', he says, كُلَّ مَا يُشْرَبُ بِهِ فَهُوَ سُوَاعٌ. Yeah? Everything that you drink from is known as suwa', right? So now the question comes, what was this cup? What did the king use it to drink wine? Did he use it to drink something else? No, he used it for measuring. It was known as a measuring cup, meaning whenever Yusuf a.s. would give grain to someone, he would use this cup to measure the amount of grain that he is giving that person. Make sense? Imam Ikrimah rahimahullah, he mentions that this drinking cup or this measuring cup was made of silver. Other Mufassirin, they say that it was made from gold. And then you had a third group of Mufassirin, they mentioned that this measuring cup was made of pearls, right? So i.e. it was very, very valuable. So now there are two things that are attributed to this measuring cup. The material that it's made from, which which automatically makes it very valuable. But the second thing is the fact that it has been attributed to the king. It is something that belongs to the king. And that makes it even more valuable. So not only is it any standard silver cup or gold cup, it is a cup that belongs to the king as well. So it's got double value now, right? Which is why this was a very serious thing. Now coming to the question that can we say that Yusuf alayhi salam did something impermissible? Because he is accusing someone, or he's accusing a group of people that are innocent. Who wants to answer this question? So if someone wants to ask you a question, yeah, so now you guys are mufassirin. Yeah, you guys are mufassirin, right? And someone asks you that Yusuf alayhi salam is accusing a group of innocent people. How is that possible? No.
It's order to find the solution. Like once, like Imam Sha'rawi says out from the story about, he was accusing a poor man about zakat, and the guy is very poor,
Yeah.
and he's أريد بك أن أؤدب الآخرين. He was talking to him, but it reflected to other people.
Okay, so he's saying that he did it to find a solution. Okay, but still, it doesn't take away the fact that he did something. What if someone's not satisfied with that answer? What answer would you give? Can someone accuse Yusuf alayhi salam of doing something haram?
No.
Obviously, that's impossible, right? He's a Nabi of Allah. How can you do something haram? No.
He was probably getting his own back on them, trying to.
No, but that's not befitting for a prophet, is it?
Teach him a lesson.
No, that's not befitting for a prophet. A prophet doesn't do that.
Because did you rescue the brother? Benjamin?
Yeah, even then, as in he could have done something else. That is,
No, because-
he could have used the permissible means.
Because he knew in the beginning, beforehand, they would come back to him because he got the power to rescue them when
Yeah.
it's needed.
Okay.
So that's what, and more than that is just to see their reaction, how they will react when they've been accused.
Yeah, it's a good point, but that still doesn't take away the fact that he did something haram.
I think there's a point in placing a cup in a specific brother's pocket.
Sorry, say that again.
There's a reason behind putting that cup into one brother's pocket. I think that's the key to it.
Yeah, but the point is that he still made an accusation.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I think the beginning when we described Sayyidina Yusuf, we said that he's got the skills of interpreting the dreams and the situation and stuff like that. So it's probably this situation that he put his brother into it. He had the said premonition to see in future that they're going to accuse his brother like they did with him.
You're close. I think he's probably got the closest. Yes.
Does Binyamin already know about it? Because when they were in the same
Yeah, as in Binyamin knows about it, but that's not the point. As in, Binyamin's not being accused.
He treated
Right.
them like he treated him. He treated them like he did him before.
Yeah, because he's saying innakum lasarib. Yeah, he's saying all of you are thieves. He didn't say innaka. Yeah, Binyamin.
Allah commanded him to do.
MashaAllah.
Finish.
Murad Mufassir, man. He's sitting in the corner and he's like, I know the answer. I'm gonna wait for everyone to say the answers. Nah. So basically, what Imam Qurtubi mentions, he says the answer to this question is, it comes later on in the coming verses where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. Yeah? Allah says, this is how we planned for Yusuf. This is what we intended for Yusuf. So he says that basically this was something divine from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah Azza wa Jal, He inspired Yusuf alayhi salam to take this course of action. Now if something has been divinely inspired by Allah Azza wa Jal, then that thing cannot be impermissible, right? And secondly, because it is something divinely inspired to a prophet of Allah in a specific scenario, based on that specific scenario, it will be permissible for Yusuf alayhi salam. One cannot say now that because Yusuf alayhi salam accused, now we can start accusing everyone. Because we know that the default is that it is impermissible to accuse someone who is innocent, who is proven to be innocent. طيب? Right, so this is the answer to that question. Now, they've been accused and a reward has been attached. Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentions that based on this we learn that in Islam it is permissible to attach a reward or an award of some type for someone to find something that has been lost or someone that has been lost. So you have for example on the news that this person is missing. All right, and sometimes you see it on the streets as well that someone's cat is missing or someone's dog is missing, right? And if you find this dog, right, you'll get £300 as a reward, right? That's permissible, and this is what we're learning from that verse, that وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ, that whosoever finds the measuring cup of the king, he will get a camel loads of grain. That is going to be his reward, right? And it reminds me of the seerah when the Prophet ﷺ was migrating from Mecca to Medina. The announcement was given by the Quraysh, whosoever finds Muhammad dead or alive, he will get the reward of 100,000 camels, red camels. That is going to be his reward, right? So this is something that has been a custom, okay, for a very, very long time, and even nowadays, it is a custom. Right. Moving on, Allah Azza wa Jal, He thereafter says that, so He said, وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. He said that I am going to be responsible for giving the reward to that person who finds the drinking cup or the measuring cup of the king. Now who is this Ana? Who is speaking? So according to some Mufassirin, Yusuf alayhi salam is saying, Ana bihi za'im. Ana means I. I am the za'im, I am the guarantor, okay, of the fact that the person who finds the measuring cup is going to get that reward that has been specified. Others, like Imam Mujahid, rahimahullah, Imam Mujahid, he says that this Ana is referring to the person who made the announcements. Adhana mu'addin. So the mu'addin is the person who is saying, Ana bihi za'im, that I will guarantee that he will get this reward that has been allocated. Moving on, Allah Azza wa Jal, He thereafter says that قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. Allah says that the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they said Tallahi, which means I swear by Allah. By Allah. So this ta at the beginning is what we know as harful qasam. Yeah, it is a particle that denotes taking an oath. So they are taking an oath that لَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ, that most definitely you know, we have not come to cause corruption in the land. We haven't come for the purpose of causing corruption like stealing and doing other acts of mischief. وَمَا كُنَّا سَارِقِينَ, and we are not thieves. Now why did they say this? They said this because from the beginning, since they came the first time round, when the droughts started, when they came the first time round, they have been acting in a very nice way. Their character has been impeccable. They have been treating Yusuf alayhi salam, even though they don't know that it's Yusuf, but they've been treating Yusuf alayhi salam in a nice way, right? Very humble character, very noble character. Furthermore, if you remember, the first time that they came, they said that when Yusuf alayhi salam, he returned the merchandise of Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Yusuf alayhi salam, he returned the merchandise of the brothers. What merchandise? The merchandise that they used to buy the grain the first time round, okay? So what happened was, when they went back to Yaqub alayhi salam, and they were unloading their luggage, they were unpacking, they found that the wealth that they used to purchase the food grain the first time round had been returned to them. So what did they do? When they went the second time round, they returned that merchandise that they should have given to Yusuf alayhi salam. So that shows their honesty. So in other words, they were very honest, they were very noble, and that's why they said, لَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ, you know from our character, you've seen, you've observed of all this time, that we haven't come to cause corruption in the land. We haven't come to do all of these mischievous things. But then, the men of Yusuf alayhi salam, they responded, قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين. So the men of Yusuf alayhi salam, they said that what would be the punishment if you are liars? What is the punishment? What is the recompense if you are liars? So then the brothers, they responded, they said, قالوا جزاؤه من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه كذلك نجزي الظالمين. The brothers, they said that its punishment is that he in whose bag it is found, meaning this item, he himself will be the punishment. Who can explain this? What does that mean?
They can keep him as a prisoner.
Say that again.
They can keep him as a prisoner.
They're going to keep him as a prisoner. Anyone else? Yes.
He's already
They're gonna keep Binyamin as a prisoner. And
That's what you just said. Yeah. So they're going to keep Binyamin as a prisoner, right? In other words, they're saying, the brothers are saying that the punishment of a person who steals, according to them, is that the person who stole, he is going to be enslaved by the people who were stolen from. Okay? Now, Yusuf alayhi salam, he knew this. Because this rule, by the way, that when you steal, you're going to be enslaved. This rule was in the Sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam. And Yusuf alayhi salam knew this. That's why he told his men to ask them this question. Because he knows what they're going to respond with. And this is the reason why he has made this entire plan. This is the only way of keeping Yusuf Binyamin, right? Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to keep Binyamin with him. So now he's going to put the brothers in such a situation that they are forced to leave Binyamin behind, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal, thereafter he says that كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الظَّالِمِينَ. This is how we punish those who oppress. Then Allah says, فَبَدَأَ بِأَوْعِيَتِهِمْ قَبْلَ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَخْرَجَهَا مِنْ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that he began, meaning Yusuf alayhi salam, he began by searching their belongings before the belonging or the luggage of his brother. Right? Now why did they do this? The Mufassir mentioned, in order to not look suspicious, they started searching the bags of the brothers first. Now Yusuf alayhi salam knows where the measuring cup is, right? He knows that it's in the bag of Binyamin. He could have started from Binyamin's bag and saved time, right? But he knows that if I start with Binyamin's bag and then it's found straight away, then the brothers are going to be a bit suspicious. Now what's going on here? That was a bit quick. It's as if he knew. And maybe he planned from beforehand, right? So what happened was, he started searching the belongings of the brothers first. One by one, he was searching, one by one. They didn't find it. All 10 brothers. They looked at all of the belongings of all 10 brothers. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla, he mentions, ثُمَّ اسْتَخْرَجَهَا مِنْ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. Then came the turn of Binyamin. And Imam Qatada rahimahullah, he mentions that when they went to Binyamin, when they were about to search Binyamin's bags, the brothers said that this guy can't steal. Right? It's no point, don't waste your time searching his bags. He won't steal. He's young and he's also very noble. He's very well behaved boy, and he doesn't have the courage, he doesn't have the character to do such a grave thing like this. So don't waste your time searching his belongings. However, Yusuf alayhi salam said, no, we must follow the protocol. And the protocol is that we are going to search every single person, no matter how innocent a person looks. So then they went and they proceeded to search the bag of Binyamin. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, when they searched the bag of Binyamin, they took it out. They found the measuring cup of the king in the baggage of Binyamin. And the narration mentions that when it was found, they took it out of his bag and they showed everyone, look, here's the measuring cup. The brothers were shocked. They were like, huh? Binyamin? You're following our footsteps as well? As in, we have that, as in they could claim this, that we have the character to do something as bad as this because previously we were ready to kill Yusuf alayhi salam. Right? But you, Binyamin, out of all of the people, we didn't expect Binyamin to steal. So they looked at Binyamin in shock, and then they started blaming him. They started cursing him. And they said to him that you have embarrassed us. What are you doing? How dare you steal the measuring cup of the king. Right? You have embarrassed us. Now why are they saying that you have embarrassed us? Because they were saying Binyamin can't do it. Don't bother searching the baggage of Binyamin. But then they found it in Binyamin's bag. So they said, you've embarrassed us. So now what happens? Allah Azza wa Jal, He thereafter mentioned the verse that I alluded to before. كَذَلِكَ كِذْنَا لِيُوسُف. Allah says, this is how we planned for Yusuf alayhi salam. Yeah? And the word kidna in this verse gives a meaning of aradana or dabbarna. That this is how we made this plan for Yusuf alayhi salam. This is what we intended for Yusuf alayhi salam. And then Allah mentioned something very interesting. Allah said, ما كان ليأخذ أخاه في دين الملك إلا أن يشاء الله. Allah said that he wouldn't have been able to take his brother, meaning Yusuf would not have been able to take his brother Binyamin if they judged according to the religion of the king. إلا أن يشاء الله, except if Allah willed. Meaning, if they made the judgment, if Yusuf alayhi salam judged according to the religion or the law of Egypt at that time, then they wouldn't have been able to keep Binyamin, because the law was different. He judged by the Sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam. He didn't judge by the law of Egypt. Now, what was the law of Egypt? The Mufassir talk about this. So they mention that the law of Egypt back then was that if someone has stolen, then he is going to be punished. Yeah, corporal punishment will take place. So he will be struck, he will be lashed, and so on and so forth. And thereafter, he will only be released when he pays double the amount of the value of the item that he has stolen. Right? So let's say, the drinking cup of the king, let's say it's £5,000. So now he has to pay £10,000. Right? So not only will he make up the value of the thing that he has stolen, but he has to double it. And only then will he be released. This was the Deen al-Malik. This was the religion of the king. This was the law of the king of Egypt at that time. But according to the Sharia, the law of Yaqub alayhi salam, we know what the punishment was. That the person who stole, he is going to be enslaved. Okay? So this is why he judged according to the Sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned something, this is very important. One of the lessons that we learn from this actually is the fact that when you judge according to the law of Allah, there is going to be divine assistance. Yes? When you judge according to the law of Allah, there is going to be divine assistance. Yusuf alayhi salam, he judged according to the law of Allah that was given to Yaqub alayhi salam, a Nabi of Allah. Right? It was a Sharia that was given to Yaqub alayhi salam. And because of this, through the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, He assisted Yusuf alayhi salam in keeping Binyamin. Right? And this is the beauty of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is why, whenever we are in a position where we need to judge, we need to arbitrate, we need to judge between two groups of people or a number of people, then it is important that we judge with the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Especially when it comes to things like transactions. We buy and sell, and you buy something privately or you sell something privately. Very important that you do it according to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in particular if both parties are Muslim. Yeah? If both parties are Muslim, it's very important that you bear in mind all of the teachings of the Sharia when it comes to buyu', when it comes to buying and selling. For example, making sure you reveal all of the faults. This is something very difficult. When you're selling something, you try to hide all of the faults. Okay? Wallahi, I have seen, whenever you sell something, and when you reveal all of the faults of that item, and you don't hide anything, there is going to be more barakah in that transaction than selling an item by hiding the faults. It is actually mentioned in the ahadith as well. Right? So this is why it's very important. It's difficult for the nafs. The nafs says, no, hide the fault so that you can charge more. Recently I sold my car, right? And when I sold my car, this is when I realized, how difficult it is to reveal all the faults. Okay? So I was thinking, I know it's got this fault, I know it's got that fault, it's got this fault. And the brother that wanted to buy the car, this is recent, the brother that wanted to buy the car, he was also Muslim. So I said, look brother, I told him to come and view the car. He said, oh, the car is in a very good condition and this, that. Now I could have just kept quiet and I could have told him, yeah, give me, and I could have doubled the price, okay? But I said, no brother, it looks nice, right? But there's this noise, there's that issue with the car, there's this issue with the car. And then slowly, the price that I had in mind to charge, right, it started dropping, right, until it was nearly half what I intended, subhanAllah. But the point is that if you sell an item and you don't sell that item according to the Sharia, and you don't reveal all the faults, and you don't abide by the etiquettes and the rulings of the Sharia, then what will happen? What will happen is Allah Azza wa Jal will make it such that the money that you think that you have gained, there's going to be no barakah in that money, right? And on the other hand, if you sell something for a very petty price, but because you were honest in your transaction, Allah Azza wa Jal will place a lot of barakah in that wealth, even though you think that you have lost a lot of money. This is what you call honesty. Honesty when it comes to buying and selling is very, very difficult. Wallahi, if you want to see someone's character, there's actually, I think it's a statement of Umar radiallahu anhu. If you want to see someone's character, then look at them in two areas of their life. Yeah? Number one, travel, and number two, buyur, buying and selling. This is when people's character is exposed, buying and selling. Because honesty is very easy to put on a show when you come to the masjid. It's very easy to put on a show when you meet people here and there. But when you are selling something, when you are buying something, this is when someone's true character is known. Right? So this is why it's very important that we understand what Sharia says with regards to buying and selling. We educate ourselves. Maybe one day, inshallah, we can do a session here regarding the etiquettes and the rules of trade, of transactions, inshallah. So this is one of the lessons that we learn of Yusuf alayhi salam's story, that because he judged by the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal assisted him, and it was a means of Binyamin staying with Yusuf alayhi salam. Now what happens? Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مَنْ نَشَاءُ. Allah says that we raise in rank those who we wish. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And above every knowledgeable person, there is a more knowledgeable person. This is a very, very important verse. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said that due to the knowledge of Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam had knowledge of the Sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam, his father, the Sharia of Allah, and he also had knowledge of the law of the land, which was the law of the king, the law of Egypt. And based on that, he decided which one to judge by, and he chose to judge by Yaqub alayhi salam's law, right, or the Sharia of Allah. So due to the knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted a way out for Yusuf alayhi salam, which is why Allah Azza wa Jalla is mentioning وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Above every knowledgeable person, there is someone who is more knowledgeable. Now this is a very important principle. We learn from this that a knowledgeable person, one of the most important qualities that a knowledgeable person needs is humility. Yeah? If you ever see a person who, when he speaks Quran Sunnah, when he dresses in an Islamic manner, when he speaks, you can see that he's got knowledge. But then you don't see humility in that person. You see arrogance, you see pride, you see ego. Then that is a proof that that person is truly not a knowledgeable person in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla. One of the foundational qualities of a knowledgeable person is humbleness. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was more knowledgeable than him in terms of the human beings, right? He was the most knowledgeable in terms of the human beings. But despite this, when we read his seerah, when we read his characteristics, we find that he was the most humble person. So much humility he had in his life. He never once demanded respect. In fact, he would reprimand the companions when they would go out of their way to respect the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The humility of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a whole topic in and of itself, right? And I believe I've given a khutbah on this, in the past few months regarding the humility of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a knowledgeable individual. He was the one that was receiving wahi from Allah. What a great honor. But despite this, he had so much humility in his life. And one may ask, okay, if I have knowledge, if Allah has blessed me with knowledge, how do I stay humble? The answer to this is to remember this principle that Allah Azza wa Jalla is teaching us in this verse. You may be knowledgeable, but out there in the world, there is someone who is more knowledgeable than you. Yeah, this is the system of life. You may be knowledgeable in your field, but you know there's someone out there in the world who is far more experienced in your field. If you're an engineer, for example, and you start becoming a bit pride, you have this pride inside of your heart. You're proud of the fact that you've studied so hard. You're proud of the fact that you've got so much knowledge in your field of engineering. But you know that you aspire to become like a particular engineer who's very famous, for example. That you study in your university, you take their example, yeah, and you read their books. You know that person, that you studied their books, you know that person is more knowledgeable than you, right? And you know out there in the world there is an engineer who is far more experienced than you. This is the system of life. You may have knowledge in a particular field, but out there are people who are far more knowledgeable than you. And let's say for argument's sake, let's say you are the most knowledgeable person in the entire world. Yeah? Let's say there is a person that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given him so much knowledge, that he is the most knowledgeable person in the entire world from the human beings. That even he has to be humble. Why? Because he must remember that there is someone who is far more knowledgeable than him. And that is Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla is Al-Alim, the most knowledgeable. And no one can compare to the knowledge of Allah. If you remember, when we studied Surah Al-Kahf, we studied the story of Musa and Khidr. When Musa and Khidr, they were on the ship, they saw a bird coming down, and in its beak it took some water. When Khidr saw this, he said, "Oh Musa, did you see this bird coming down and taking water from the ocean?" He said, "Yes." He said, the water that the bird has taken, that is our knowledge combined. Yeah, the knowledge of Musa being a prophet of Allah, and the knowledge of Khidr, Allah Azza wa Jalla gave him special knowledge, right? He said, our knowledge combined, that is like that water that bird has taken in its beak. As for the knowledge of Allah, that is the ocean. Yeah? So we should never think that we are so knowledgeable and start becoming so arrogant. It's very unfortunate nowadays, unfortunately. You know, Allah protect us and Allah keep us sincere. Yeah, it's very sad to see that many people, when they have knowledge, they start becoming arrogant. You know, we see this on social media, unfortunately. You know, they feel that as soon as they learn one hadith, they have to open a social media account and they have to boast about so much knowledge that they have, right? Whereas when you study the characteristics of our pious predecessors, they would make every attempt to hide their deeds and hide the knowledge that they had, right? Because they were scared that they may speak without knowledge. And this is something very important. The more knowledge you have, the more humble you should be. The scholars, they give an example, very beautiful example. They give an example of a tree. They say that, what do you define as a good tree? A good tree is a tree that has obviously leaves, it's got loads of branches, loads of leaves, but then it has a lot of fruits. And those fruits, they are ripe. Now tell me what happens. When there's fruits on the branches of a tree, what happens to the branches? It lowers itself, right? This is knowledge. When a person has knowledge, the more knowledge he has, you should see that he is very, very humble. The more knowledge a person has, the more humble he should be. The less knowledge a person has, the likelihood of him not having humility is more. And this is what we see. We often see those people who think they're knowledgeable, but they're actually ignorant. They've never sat at the feet of a scholar and studied properly. And as a result, what happens? Due to their fake knowledge that they think they have, they've attributed knowledge to themselves. No one has said that they're knowledgeable. They think they're knowledgeable. They're actually ignorant. And as a result, what happens? Because they haven't got pure knowledge, they start becoming arrogant. They start, speaking about Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying things that should not be said. And in some cases, Allah protect us, in some cases, they start giving fatwa. If they have a bit of a gathering, they start giving fatwa. If they get a bit of a following, they start giving fatwa, verdicts, that this is my fatwa on this. And this brother, miskin, he's only been practicing Islam for 1 year, and he's barely studied anything. He can't even recite Surah Fatiha properly, and mashallah, he's giving fatwa on issues, right? Whereas this principle, very important. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. There is someone who is knowledgeable, far more knowledgeable than you. If it's not in the form of human beings, then remember that Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Alim. Allah is the most knowledgeable. And this should fill our heart with humility. Yeah? And when a person has humility, then he will speak less and he will listen more. The ulama, they mention there is a reason why we have been given one tongue and 2 ears. Yeah? The reason why we have been given one tongue and 2 ears is so that we speak less and that we listen more. Understand? Not so that we listen from one ear and take it out the other ear. It's so that we listen with both ears and it stays in our minds and it is ingrained in our hearts. Right? This is the objective of knowledge. Now we're finding here that the knowledge of Yusuf alayhi salam in various forms throughout the story. We've talked about the interpretation of dreams that he had, right? That knowledge. Now we're seeing here his knowledge and his character coming to light once again. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, despite the knowledge of Yusuf alayhi salam, did he have arrogance in his life? He had no arrogance. Why? Because he remembered this principle. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Right? That above every knowledgeable person, there is someone who is far more knowledgeable. So inshallah we'll end it here. We'll continue with the story. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Not next week, but the week after. As I mentioned, after Isha, next week we've got our